What is a Venn diagram for three sets? A Venn diagram for three sets is a visual representation of the relationship between these three sets. A Venn diagram is composed of three circles or similar shapes. The circles each represent one set. The circles overlap if the sets share common elements. The three sets can also be subsets of a universal set. In that case, the three circles are enclosed by a rectangle. The rectangle represents the universal set. Let's start with three sets, A, B, and C. A Venn diagram representing the sets A, B, and C will look like one of these four diagrams. The three circles represent one set each. The elements of each set are located inside the corresponding circle. What the Venn diagrams look like depends on how the sets relate to each other. The difference between them is whether and how the circles overlap. First, let's concentrate on the diagram to the left, diagram 1. These three circles do not overlap. This is because the three sets, A, B, and C, do not share any common elements. Recall that sets without common elements are known as disjoint sets. The intersection of sets A, B, and C is therefore an empty set. Moving on to the second Venn diagram, two of the three circles overlap. In this case, sets A and B share one or more elements. The intersection of sets A and B is therefore not an empty set. Set C, however, has no common elements with A and B. In the third Venn diagram, circles A and B overlap, and so do circles B and C. That means that set B shares common elements with both sets A and C. Sets A and C do not share common elements because they don't overlap. The intersection of set A and set C is therefore an empty set. In the fourth Venn diagram, all three circles overlap. This diagram is used when all three sets share elements with each other in some way. In this case, sets A and B share common elements. The intersection of sets A and B is therefore not an empty set. Sets A and C also share common elements, which means that the intersection of set A and set C is not an empty set. The same is the case for sets B and C. They also share common elements. The intersection of sets B and C is therefore not an empty set. What remains is whether sets A, B, and C all share any common elements. This may or may not be the case. The intersection of sets A, B, and C may therefore be an empty set, but it doesn't have to be. You will learn more about that later. The three sets, A, B, and C, can also be subsets of a universal set U. Recall that a universal set contains all the elements that are relevant in a particular context. The universal set is represented by a rectangle. The circles, representing the three subsets, A, B, and C, are located inside the rectangle. The elements of the subsets are placed inside the circles. The universal set will by definition contain all the elements of the subsets. The elements of the universal set that are not elements of the subset are located outside the circles, but inside the rectangle. In upcoming videos, you'll see how these Venn diagrams are used in different contexts. A Venn diagram for three sets is a visual representation of the relationship between these three sets.